Roll up, roll up. You're invited to the best show in town. It's the TNC Podcast. We are going to be exciting you for the next hour or so, discussing all things Canaries. And we've got an enthralling 0-0 draw against Wigan to dissect as well. Jack Reeve and Chris Reeve to guide you through proceedings on this rather lovely autumnal evening. Chris, how's things? The TNC studio has had a splash of colour.
Yeah, tell you, Jack, the TNC studio update is coming along quite nicely. Big up to the father-in-law at Cheesy Geezer on Twitter. He's done a fine job so far. These two big frames behind me need to go up a notch, and then we've got the full shrine will be there. For hopefully the next face-to-face podcast, Jack. Of course, because we've got our game tomorrow, we thought it would be easier to go live with people. But for the next face-to-face with you and I, there will be the official new TNC studio.
Looking forward to it. Plenty to get through this evening. We've got 2 games to look back on and 2 to look forward to. Please do get your comments in and we'll try and reply to as many of them as we can. Chris, shall we go
with this one to begin with? Straight in.
Yeah. Terry TV.
Oi, Saveloy's up the notch, bin the blues, Wagner's at the wheel, and the bus is off to Wembley. I love that from you. Do you know what? That is the best first comment we've ever had on a YouTube video. Thank you so much.
It's a strong start. I feel as if we may have peaked early. Also, as always, let us know where you're tuning in from. Keenan is tuning in all the way from North Carolina. Do you think Pookie would come over to the MLS? My local team, Charlotte FC, just signed Ashley Westwood, originally from Recruitment. Well, good to see you, Keenan. Maybe in a couple of years, Teamy might be there, but we need him for a little while longer just yet.
But by the way, Recruitment, that's the shock of the show. This Recruitment, come on, Jack.
Sorry, I don't explore those parts. I stay in Yarmouth. Should we go back to happier times with Norwich, Chris, and quickly glance over the mauling of the Tigers?
Yes, let's absolutely do that. The mauling of the Tigers. Let's do that. Before we do that, though, Jack, I just want to say for those of you that are joining live and watching back, to be fair, if you take a screenshot of your screen, chuck it on Twitter and Instagram, tag Talk Norwich City, we'll share all of them as a thanks for your support. But yes, Jack, Hull, I mean, that was a tiny little win, wasn't it? We played some lovely football. We brought the game to the opposition. The atmosphere in the Barclay at the end was bouncing. It was quite something. I mean, I was very content with that performance.
Well, it was a promising second half. I've just seen someone comment here that's reminded me. Of course, the game previous to Hull was a 3-0 defeat to Burnley. Welcome to Vizza, who is, of course, a Burnley fan. We were needing to bounce back after what was a fairly humbling defeat to those guys who are, of course, going really well at the top of the table. We go 1-0 down early on. You're thinking, oh, goodness, here we go again. But it was nice to see, more than anything, Chris, a Norwich side come from behind to win and win convincingly. We haven't seen too much of that in the last couple of seasons.
Yeah, I felt that it showed, full stop, yes, because pretty much it's been a case of if we concede, the game's done. You may as well pack your bags and your pie and bugger off home. But no, I felt that we showed the right mentality to come from behind at home against another. I mean, there's lots of noise about Hull, isn't there? You know, the city of culture, and I think they'd not been beaten in 5. I mean, if that's a team that's not beaten in 5, I'm sorry, Jack, but this league is shite. Like, you know, and I know that people are, oh yeah, but Chris, you know, no, come on, let's not lower our standards. We should be beating teams like Hull at Carrow Road. And to be fair, we should also be beating teams like Wigan away from home, but we didn't. However, Jack, I personally feel like over these 2 games, despite the somewhat disheartening draw away from home at the weekend, I actually feel like we are still seeing incremental gains. I think we're seeing progress. I think we're starting to see players adapt to Wagner's philosophy, because we've gone for a philosophy coach. I do believe it's going to take time. It's not a slapdash appointment that's going to burn and fizzle out quickly. This is going to take some time, and that's why a lot of the talk is rightly on that this is now very much a period of transition. We'll see. I think this, we said it in our last podcast, Jack, face to face. This month is vital for our playoff hopes. Vital. And I'm not just talking, draws. We need wins, and we need a lot of them. We definitely need to go undefeated from now until the end of the month to have a chance of getting in those playoff places, in my opinion. But we should be seeing some good progress in terms of the way that we're beating sides as well, Jack. But look, who knows? Look at the way that the playoffs are going at the moment and the teams that are in them. I'll put it out there. I think Sheffield United have peaked too soon. Obviously, Middlesbrough, I think, will be in there. But there's still a chance where I think if Norwich City can go 3 games on the bounce and win those games, I know the mood's low at the moment, and I know that I've got my yellow and green optimistic glasses on, but I still have this dream of Wagner with his wand out at Wembley, and I think that dream is still just about alive, Jack.
I'm seeing a few comments in the chat, and I'm going to pull them up. I'm going to let you have a couple of minutes at the start of the show to wax lyrical about your favourite man on earth other than me, and that's Onel Hernandez. Han says, Lord Onel is fighting for a new contract. It's so satisfying to watch a player who actually wants to play for our team. I think it's maybe a little harsh to infer that others aren't wanting to play for our team. I think we've got a fairly good bunch when it comes to that. But particularly that whole game, Chris, I myself, who've been critical of Onel at times this season, I thought that was his best game in a Norwich shirt for a very long time.
Yeah.
Just in turn, it was so nice to see Onel. We know he can get in really good shooting and crossing positions, but to add that end product, there was a couple of assists. He maybe could have got a few more if the finishing was better. He had a couple of good shooting opportunities. Yeah. If we see more of that from Onel, then we're going to continue to win more games at Carrow Road.
Yeah, absolutely, Jack. It was obviously, I don't think it's far off saying it was a phenomenal performance from Onel against Hull. I really do. I think he played like a man possessed. He did play like a player that was fighting for a contract. I love that from Chaz Tats. Love that profile picture, by the way. What a day that was. And I think that's what we're going to see now, Jack. I do think almost the reason why I'm not dismissing playoffs yet is we are going to have some players now really go for it, wanting to get those contracts renewed, which I think is really exciting. But look, don't get me wrong. Look, people know where I'm at with Onel for obvious reasons, and I can't escape that. But what I would say is if you look at the statistics in terms of big chances created, he is well up there. I believe he's within the top 5, right? And I know that we have been average to shite this season, but I still combat this criticism of Onel's got no end product. I think it's wrong. I think it's lazy. I think it's one of those opinions that's caught wind and people just say it because it's easy to say and they know that on social media they won't be hated by it. I think that we saw against Hull an Onel Hernandez that's bedded into the Wagner way. I think that actually he was one of the better players at Wigan. He had a really, really good shot that I believe was saved or hit the crossbar, if I remember rightly. So, I'm still seeing good progress from Onel. Onel himself would say he needs to be more consistent. But I believe that we've got a really, really good player in there that's going to do wonders for us. And I'm excited, Jack. And do you know what I loved about Onel against Hull is that he started doing these different types of runs now where he's picking the ball up, but rather than going out wide, he's actually going inside, which not only does the opposition not expect, but also they cannot handle because of his pace. And it stretches out those opposition backlines. And all of a sudden, the strikers that we've got, whoever they'll be, which is a topic that we'll talk about later on this show, I think it causes havoc for the opposition. So, yeah, great game for Onel, 2 assists. So let's put that lazy opinion to bed that he hasn't got any end product. He has got end product. And I'm really excited to see what will come of Onel. And by the way, people forget, Onel Hernandez won us the 3 points away at Birmingham this season. He won us the 3 points. It was a last gasp winner, a comeback from behind. I think it was Big Andy with the other one in that game. So he's haunted his old club before. I think he'll haunt his old club again. I cannot wait to get to Carrow tomorrow and see Onel tear them apart, Jack.
I love the confidence, Chris. And let's remain positive for a few more moments. And Will's put in the chat, fair play to Max Aarons, who's set to play his 200th game tomorrow. Incredible achievement. Yeah, I think we forget, Chris, don't we, that the fact that Max has just been ever present for the last, 4-5 seasons and is still so young. 200 games already at his age is a remarkable feat. And for 198 of those games, he's been absolutely superb.
and a player that again has looked like they're getting better and better the longer that Wagner's magic goes on. I think that he's growing in confidence as well, which is really exciting. Don't get me wrong, I don't think he'll be here at the end of at the beginning of next season. But again, it's great for Norwich City that Max is coming on leaps and bounds and getting back to the real confident Max. You know, the Max that wasn't stifled by defensive, unorganized, fragmentic was that a word? Inconsistent formations and stuff. Like, yeah, I think Max is a real asset for us this season. And do you remember, Jack? Little pat on the back for us here. Do you remember when we were laughed at when Ivo Pinto got injured and the next game was Ipswich away and we went, get Maxi Aarons in there? And what did he do? Ever since then, he has just been an outstanding professional for Norwich City Football Club. So big up Maxi, dynamite.
Yeah, we've got one thing right over the past 5 seasons and not much else. Richard says playoffs are simply not a viable option. Season should be used as the starting of next year's promotion. PL would be a disaster with the current squad. Huge squad cleanup required. Look, we've discussed this in the past, haven't we, Chris? I do. You know, whenever I do watch the Premier League, I do watch it and go, if we were to get there next season, it could be even more embarrassing than last time. I also saw a comment earlier that says, is the fact that Hernandez and Kenny McLean have probably been our 2 best players, or 2 of the best players under Wagner so far, prove maybe our frailties with recruitment over the past 5 seasons, where you've had 3 seasons of Premier League money, you've spent tens of millions of pounds, and yet still it's players that, you know, got us up 5 years ago are the ones that are still excelling.
I don't know. I think that's a bit of a complex one, Jack. I don't think it's as black and white as that. I do think that we have to see both sides of the coin. You know, at the points that Webber has got the recruitment right, it's been obviously phenomenal, really. You know, you look at the likes of James Maddison, Emi Buendia, Timu Pukki. But don't get me wrong, he has got, and I say the recruitment team, the scouting team have got more wrong than they've got right. And I do think it's definitely one of those topics that's been magnified and is rightly being criticised more than ever. I think that Craigo is bang on the money here, bang on the money, you know. And it's not just the defence, I think it's the squad, Jack. I think that we are going to see some players leave probably where we think, oh, I'm not sure if I feel comfortable about that. But you know what? I think that we need to go cold turkey with this in the summer, Jack. I think that it is time to move on a couple of those players that just aren't up to the expectations of this football club. I think that's okay. You know, and honestly, it'll be very, very interesting. I don't think it's, but going back to that question, I don't think Anel and Kenny is the ones that you can pinpoint and say, well, doesn't that say it all? I think what says it all is the fact that we've now got the front line that we've got without Timu Pukki and without Josh Sargent. And, you know, I think that probably says it all. But, you know, I think it gives an opportunity for those other guys to come in and try and make an impact, and fingers crossed they do. At the end of the day, people are saying, well, you know, oh no, let's not go in the playoffs in the Premier League now. Let's have a transition season. Well, okay. In which case, let's let these youngsters have a go. All right. Yeah. And let's back them. Let's give them a go. Let's be confident. Let's support them from the stands. And perhaps the message should be more around that rather than slagging off Webber's recruitment. We can't do anything about it now until the summer comes when the window opens again. Right. So I actually think now is an opportunity for us to actually see what different types of players that we can see come through. Lots of comments are talking about Kamara, Jack.
Not Kai Kamara.
No, not Kai. Heart-shaped hands. We've had him on the podcast. What a man he is, by the way. No, Abu Kamara. See, like, this is the thing. You know, with every down, there's always an up, right? And there's different areas of this squad that can now really excel and prove a point. And I'm personally looking forward to it.
Well, one man that will be given a run out, and we've already seen feature quite regularly over the past few weeks, is Adam Idah. Now, Don Spencer says that Idah worthy of a 5-year contract, promising against Hull, hopeless against Wigan. Big contract handed to Adam Idah, Chris, I think, well, I certainly forget, maybe others do as well, still how young he is. I think I just assume, I remember all those years ago, that hat trick against Preston. I think he's still only like 21. He's a young lad. A 5-year contract would take him to 26. I agree with Dom there. I thought he was lively against Hull, and I think he's something a bit different. I think it's going to be fascinating against Birmingham because you've got Sargent out and Pookie out. So he will most likely be leading the line. I think that might be what he needs, actually, with a Hernandez and a Dowell around him. I think he could really flourish, and we'll see. Certainly a bit of pressure on his shoulders now.
Yeah, absolutely, Jack. The pressure is on now. Obviously, very much, thrown in against Hull, more or less because we had to. Obviously, with Pookie, I was particularly impressed with his link up with Sargent, and that's what I'd maybe challenge your excitement around Adam Idah going to the Birmingham game, because I'm not so sure he's going to have that same sort of link up and understanding with those players that you mentioned versus Sargent or Pookie. I think that's where Adam Idah has shown those glimpses of promise. What I would say is we have to stop talking about Preston. It was a long time ago, and I'm sure Adam will think that too. It was a phenomenal game for him. It was definitely the one where he, burst onto the scene, but that is very much history now. We have to now look forwards, and Adam's got a big opportunity, the Irish R9, and I think he could do really well, Jack. I think that, there's not a chance that, David Wagner would just accept him, getting such a long-term deal if he didn't see the potential there. And I was chatting to a couple of Canaries about this just a couple of days ago, Jack, and I think maybe what Norwich might have seen, and this is maybe sort of finger in the air a little bit here, but I look at a player like Carlton Morris, and I think, quite tidy, actually, and has actually been doing a job ever since he's left Norwich City in the Championship with 2 different clubs, by the way, in Luton, and the other one, was it Bristol City or was it Barnsley? I forget.
Barnsley, wasn't it?
Barnsley. Yeah. And I think maybe the club have potentially learnt from Carlton Morris and thought, actually, do you know what? I think we can see lots of latent potential with the Irish R9, Adam Idah, and fingers crossed he can do a job.
He's certainly gone against what Dean Smith described him as in that press conference. Did he call him a restricted athlete or something? It was a really strange comment, sort of regarding his injuries and saying that he's never really going to get back to what he was. Liam Cossey wrote.
I have to say, Jack, sorry to interrupt you, mate. And just with regards to what Dean Smith has said and stuff, I think after the Jordan Hugill podcast and his revelations on Talk Norwich City around what Dean Smith described as an athlete and not an athlete, I think I'd be sort of taking those comments and presses that Smith gave with a pinch of salt, to be honest with you. Yeah, that's my honest opinion. But look, don't get me wrong. And there's lots of people in the comment section now really unhappy that we're left with Adam Idah, but I think that because of where we're at and where we find ourselves, we have to choose to be positive, and we have to choose to back Adam. Let's support him, and let's hope that he bangs a couple in against Birmingham. I think he's more than capable, Jack. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely more than capable. I think if we were to see Adam Idah up against us, he'd probably be a player where you go, oh, he's got something about him. So
yeah,
see this as opportunity. Liam Cossey in regards to recruitment says, no coincidence that Kieran Scott, head of recruitment, left and our recruitment got worse. He's gone to Borough and they're on the up. Yeah, Borough going well at the moment under Michael Carrick, aren't they? I wanted to talk about Angus Gunn, Chris, back in the squad after Krul's couple of mistakes. And we found a stat, didn't we, from Dan Emery on Twitter, basically lauding Angus Gunn. He now ranks first in the Championship for all of the good metrics regarding goalkeepers, basically post-shot XG, goals conceded plus 5.4, which is really good. And you look there, Norwich City have the 9th worst defence in post-shot XG, allowed 38. And Tim Krul has conceded 18 from 16.3. So he was expected to concede 16. He has actually conceded 18. Angus, on the flip side, is expected to concede 5 more than he actually has. Are we looking at the best goalkeeper in the Championship here, Chris? Because realistically saved us a couple of points on Saturday against Wigan.
Oh, my God, absolutely. Like, we praised an L against Hull. The man of the match against Wigan was 1,000,000% Angus, which, to be fair, says it all in terms of the way that we let the opposition on us. The sloppy mistakes that we're making, the misjudged passes, the defensive frailties. It still seems like we're struggling to readapt to passing it out from the back again. I think it's pretty much a very obvious thing for an opposition manager now, Jack. Let's play high press against Norwich City and they'll make a mistake at the back. And so, don't get me wrong, everyone knows I'm biased towards Angus, but I think it almost is a sad indictment of the fact that we have let teams on us for him to have those, but by the way, some absolutely brilliant performances, absolutely outstanding against Wigan, kept us in the match a couple of times. But I looked back at the highlights and I was almost sick, Jack, because, the way that we just let those guys through. And by the way, if Will Keane, of all people, had scored against Norwich City, that would have left a serious sour taste in my mouth. But look, we know, Jack, well, Norwich fans knew it was probably a mistake dropping Angus in the first place. And that's, not me being negative towards Timmy Krul. Timmy Krul is a great experienced goalkeeper, but, Angus had really started to, come on, and it was harsh. And so, him being back in the room now, I think is a positive. And what I really want to make abundantly clear is that Norwich City need to be very, very careful with the goalkeeping situation, because the problem that we are going to have on our hands is that a team is going to come knocking, and I think that it will be a conversation will be had, because if Angus isn't our consistent number one, when he was brought in to be that in the time span that it's taken him to do so, I think it will cause problems. And so, just like the whole, the Timu Pukki thing, do you start Pukki but stifle Sargent? And it's almost the same now with Timmy Krul and Angus, I feel. And so I think the club do need to be careful, because Angus is definitely good enough to be number one for, most of the top clubs in the United Kingdom. And that's why Rangers have expressed an interest in him. What people also need to know is that the goalkeeping coach that was at Southampton is now at Rangers. So, there's no smoke without fire there. Norwich do need to be very careful with the way that they pick and choose their goalkeepers over the next few games.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see. For me, Angus definitely number one. Ben says, one shot on target against Wigan, simply not good enough. They're bottom of the league. It's weird, isn't it, Chris, at the moment? How good are Norwich? I think that's a really difficult one to put your finger on. You've had two really convincing away wins, where we scored 4 goals at a time. We've now had Bristol City, which I was at, and it was horrendous. Wigan, where we've only put up a shot against 2 teams, maybe not so much Bristol City, but Wigan you should be beating. As Ben noted there, they are bottom of the league. Thumped by Burnley at home, and then a decent second half performance against Hull. I keep flipping between, I think we've got a really talented squad and one that should be in the top 6 of this division with ease, and going, have we actually got that much quality? And I don't quite know where I sit. Do you?
The score's not good enough. It's as simple as that. I think, well, look, we all saw it under Dean Smith, but people obviously just pinned it all on Dean, and not everyone, but a lot of people pinned it all on Dean Smith. And now we're seeing that actually it's not just a case of getting in a new manager and it solves all of your problems. We've said it so many times, there have been many fires to put out at Norwich City Football Club on and off the pitch over the last season or so. And David Wagner can only do so much in the time that he's been blessed with so far. And I think it's very evident that the squad aren't as good as we thought they would be. We sat here on the podcast, Jack, saying we've got the best squad in the league. The squad depth is great. But, in terms of numbers, yes. But the quality's not been there. And obviously David Wagner's been quite keen to actually lean up this Norwich City squad even more. And so it again goes back to that point about, this next summer window coming up. It's going to be a real fascinating time to be tuning into Norwich City transfer business, that's for sure.
It's strange, isn't it, Chris? Because, I do agree with you to an extent, but we've just talked there about Angus Gunn, one of, if not the best goalkeeper in the division.
Yeah.
You've got Max Aarons, who's probably one of the best.
I was just saying, sorry to interrupt you, mate, statistically the best
Yeah, so you've got the best goalkeeper in the league. You've got one of the best right backs in the league in Max Aarons. You've got Dimian Ulis, who's very highly rated. Whatever you think of Grant Hanley and Big Andy, like decent at this level. The midfield may be a bit of a worry, but you've got Gabriel Sara, who we paid 10 million quid for. You've got Marcelino Nunez, who everyone was thinking was the next Iniesta when he first joined. And then whatever you think of Teemu Pukki, one of the best strikers the Championship's ever seen. So that's what I'm finding difficult, because if I'm picking through the squad, there's real talent in most positions. But when you mold it all together, for whatever reason, it's not really working. And I think we've seen it under two managers now with very contrasting styles. So, Dom Spencer, we've got a squad full of good supporting acts, but without the headliners.
It's true, Jack. I think Dom's bang on. Dom's bang on the money here.
I think you have got the headliners, though. I think you've got Angus Gunn, you've got Max Aarons, you've got Teemu Pukki, you've got Josh Sargent. Like, they're headliners, aren't they, in this division?
Yeah, but maybe they're not as much of a headliner as we thought. You know, it's kind of like asking for Stormzy, but getting Chipmunk. You know, it's very obvious from you'd rather, isn't it?
Do you think anyone born pre or post 2000 will know who Chip is?
Music analogies always get in trouble, don't they?
I was worried when you picked music there. Keith says, squad's underachieving, and are they hungry enough? I think that's an interesting one, Chris, because look, I'm not questioning anyone's hunger in this squad, but I think naturally, whether it's football, whether it's work, if you've achieved something twice, and you know they've achieved the ultimate goal of playing in the Championship, they've won the division, right, and they've done it convincingly on 2 occasions.
Twice.
Then we've still got a lot of those players still here. To then go a third time, it must just be so draining. And like that's not even necessarily a diss on the players. It's more like to get up and go again. It's just really difficult.
And it is hard. And I know that we've said that this particular league that we find ourselves in this season is shite to average. It's not even average. It's shite to average. You know, we should be up there, which is why it's hard for Norwich fans to take, because we've got out the Championship with much better teams than what we're seeing this season. The only team that have come to Carrow Road and have looked Premier League is Burnley. You know, the only team with real standout quality has been Burnley, without a shadow of a doubt. But everyone else, I've thought to myself, yeah, you know, if we were at our levels, we could absolutely beat you. And I know that that's very easy for me to say, but I do believe that to be the case. Just want to say a special shout out to Detroit 281. This is good evening, greetings from the United States. God bless America and Josh Sargent. Speaking of America, Jack, the Atanasios. You know,
yes,
what's the next chapter in that story? Because of course, the meeting that no one really understood what it meant last week, and I do believe that now that there's a next chapter in the tale there. So again, this summer, you know, what happens there? It's, you know, I really want Norwich fans to almost try to channel let's just take a bit of short-term pain here for long-term gain. Yes, it's going to be a transition season now, most likely to be. So let's try to encourage these young players coming through. Again, what's happening behind the scenes? You know, a lot of Norwich fans have called upon changes behind the scenes for many a season now. Guys, you're about to get them, all right? So, you know, let's try to choose excitement and optimism for what's to come, rather than getting too down in the dumps and negative. I think that we've really, really got the key elements of our football club in place now, especially with regards to the training ground. I know people are bored of hearing about the veg patch and the soccer bot, but it does make a difference, guys. It does make a difference. We've got, you know, Premier League facilities now, and I think that's really, really exciting. Jack, another topic. Sorry, I need to bring this up. I'm going all over the place tonight. I want to say a special shout out and a huge big up to City Elite on the drums, because they are making such a big difference to the atmosphere right now. They should be absolutely hugely applauded for that. I'm so pleased that the club have allowed the drum in the Barclay at last, and thank God, because and also again optimism, because that drum in the Lower Barclay against Hull, we were starting to, bounce up and down. In actual fact, I did actually break my seat by accident at the weekend.
Did you? Don't admit that live on air.
I probably
Get an
shouldn't.
invoice for that.
Yeah, but it was, if you don't jump, you know. And I
Yeah.
literally, unfortunately, one of my seat took a hit. So, but you've got to give it your all, haven't you? Anyway, big up City Elite, who actually kept most people going in the last 2 away games, which have been pretty dross, to say the least.
I did see as well. Charlie's just put it in the comments there, actually, that they were at the women's game as well.
Yes,
the ladies game, which is brilliant. And look, fair play to them, because we're all we all talk a good game about how to improve an atmosphere, but none of us really do much about it. Those guys have actually, pulled their finger out and made some change. Yeah. Just going back to the Atanasios, Chris, there was a brilliant piece, as I feel like I say this every week, there was a brilliant piece from Michael Bailey on The Athletic, and it was kind of like, it feels like we're approaching the end of an era for Norwich City, in a sense of, Farker coming in, and the Germans, and Weber, and recruitment, and free-flowing football, and we can attack the Premier League our own way, and we'll maintain Premier League football on a shoestring budget. And realistically, it just doesn't work.
Yes.
You might do it for a season, but it's not going to be sustainable. And now we've kind of realized that, and we're going into that next generation of American money and big money, and maybe selling our soul a bit. Some people will probably have that opinion. We've been lucky enough to speak to the Atanasios, and I think their heart's in the right place. I think they're in football and with Norwich for the right reason. Of course, all of this stuff does come with a degree of risk, but it does feel like the kind of winding up of that kind of 2018-19, goodness. And look, that's fine, because cycles come to an end with football. Every club has it. We had our fun, we gave it a go, but realistically, the way that football's going is difficult to do. And it will be fascinating, as you say, how we now transition from Michael and Delia being majority shareholders to what will likely be the Atanasios with a large shareholding in the football club.
Yeah, some really valid points there, Jack. Echo most of them, agree with most of them. I think on the pitch, absolutely. We are at the end of an era on the pitch. I do think, though, that behind the scenes, there is going to be a period, and rightly so, and I'm pleased that it will be this way, that there is going to be a period where, it's not just cold turkey, and I know that the Atanasios really value, Dida and Michael and their stewardship of the football club. And, I think that's really important. And you said that phrase there, Jack, selling our souls. I don't think we've done that, and I don't think we will do that. And I think that this is why Dida and Michael were so happy with the Atanasios, becoming part of our football club, because of their values. We've heard them all on our podcast with them, of what they're about, why they do what they do, and what they've done with the Brewers as well. That's a real positive. And so I think Delia still being in the boardroom, I say Delia and Michael and Jones still being in the boardroom, I think is a real positive. So I actually think that the football club have done this in a really, really good way. And so have Delia and Michael, and so have the Atanasios. And I think that's really exciting. So yeah, it'll be fascinating to see what happens next. Cheesy Geezer is in the comment section. He says, hello, still up then. Of course, Cheesy Geezer did. The father-in-law did put these frames up for me at the weekend. Yes, Cheesy.
I've got to say, though, Cheesy, it looks like you've left after doing half the job, mate. Why are the others not on the wall?
These two
I hope
will
you didn't
be
pay him.
These two will be up. They will be up, and they'll be ready in time for our next face-to-face.
We must say, Chris, go on.
No, I must say, bit of an exclusive. I'm hoping and praying that I'm going to have another special guest on the podcast.
Really?
Hopefully filming this Thursday. I hope it doesn't fall through. It has done before, so I'm hoping that it comes through this time. And that should be a real exciting one for Norwich fans. We'll be out in a couple of weeks, maybe sooner. Who knows?
Wow. Do you know what else is exciting for Norwich City fans, Chris?
Yes, go on.
Laken's Beer.
Yes.
We would like to thank all of our sponsors, actually, who are all on screen here. We've got a couple of new ones that we'll talk about in a bit. But honestly, without our sponsors, we wouldn't be able to do all of this stuff for free, because it may not seem it, but it does take a considerable amount of time to put all of this together. If you'd like a top-up of Laken's, I know you all love it. There's a discount code in the description, which gets you 20% off. There's also 15% off to Nor in the description. And also, Chris, we've got a new sponsor that I can point to just there, which are actually amazing. Well, I say that actually amazing. We knew that they were amazing before we signed up with them. But Prep King, to balance the beer drinking, you can have really healthy food. Do you want to give a quick heads up?
Oh, absolutely, I do. Yeah, if you, I tell you, we've spoken about Knorr and Lakens, but why not have a lovely Prep King meal and wash it down with a Lakens? Why not? Why the hell not?
I've done it a good few times.
Balance healthy and unhealthy. No, on a serious note, some of you may or may not know Prep King, and they deliver nationwide. So we're really proud that they're a sponsor of Talk Norwich City now. And if you want to give their meals a go, there's a TNC discount code, isn't there, Jack?
There is. TNC 10 will get you 10% off. And they've also already reduced their meals around the cost of living. So you're basically getting about 15% off from what you were a couple of weeks ago. So well worth a look. For me, I know Chris loves it. I get really lazy with my lunches. So to have something there ready to go is sound. They're Norwich based. You're supporting local business. Happy days, I say.
Get on it.
So get on that in the description. 2 games this week, Chris.
Yes, I was about to say exactly that. Let's talk about the upcoming games. First of all, Birmingham, as the saying goes. So,
I'm actually really impressed, mate, that we've gone 36 minutes and 15 seconds, and that's the first time we've said Birmingham. Well done.
What's your gut saying, Jack? Like, do you think we're going to get? It's crazy, isn't it? It's like we're either going to get a Hull City, Norwich City sort of level of performance, where we're going to blow them away in the second half. Bit of a slow burner, of course, bit cagey to begin with. But when we found where the door is, we'll put the key in it. Or are we going to get a Burnley or a Bristol? It's tough.
I'm confident, and you know what? I have been all season. It's been weird. I think a lot of people have been quite down about Norwich, and I get it. I've been really excited to go to Carrow Road this season, and I'm buzzing. I love a Tuesday night game this time of year. There was a bit of warmth in the air today. A couple of beers pre-match. Happy days. I don't think Birmingham and Cardiff are anywhere near the levels of Burnley. I thought Bristol City were actually quite a good outfit. I don't think they're as good as them guys either. I think 2 home games in the same week, if you pick up 6 points, you suddenly might even be back in the playoffs. You said it earlier. This feels like a really pivotal week. I think if you pick up 2 wins, I mean, we're in the mix already, but you're banging the mix and confidence is high. And I think the win against Hull not only was important for points on the board, it was important because we'd gone so long without a win at Carrow Road. And yes, we have a really good away following, but 90% of our fan base will only get to watch Norwich at home, myself and yourself included for large parts. So that was huge. And I'm confident for this week. I think Sargent being out is a big blow, and I'm just praying that that's not too bad. I always get worried when I hear the word ligaments, and I did today. So he's going to be out for the next 2 games, which is a real shame. It's a big opportunity for Adam Idah. I'm pleased that Onil Hernandez is hitting form at the right time. Kieran Dowell has been brilliant under David Wagner. I'm confident. I think we will get the 2 wins. I think I saw enough from Hull. I was pleased in a quite a sadistic way that we didn't lose to Wigan, because it showed that we could kind of do it the dirty way. And I think as long as
we should have lost that game.
We should have lost. And I think under Dean Smith, we probably do lose that game.
Yeah.
But if you pick up points away from home and you win your home games, that will be enough to get you there or thereabouts this season. So I'm confident. I'm going into it with real optimism. But you're right. I think that for the first time in quite a while, there's a bit of expectation. There's a bit of pressure. It'll be fascinating to see how we respond.
But good. I'm pleased there's expectation. I'm pleased that there's pressure. And these Norwich City players now need to step up. They've had a real good result at home against Hull last time out at Carrow Road. You're right, Jack. We didn't lose when we absolutely should have done at the weekend against Wigan. They had the better chances, statistics, etc. It stunk of a Wigan win. We got away with one there. So we've gone unbeaten, okay? And I know I'm clutching at straws now, but hear me out. We need to inject some positivity in here. As you say, Jack, get a couple of wins this week. You're looking pretty lively again, aren't you? And I think that's a real positive. I think the other thing to bring up there, and I hope this comes across in the right way. I'm obviously very disappointed that Josh Sargent's injured. Very disappointed. And I was like you, Jack, when I heard that word ligament, I went, ooh. And actually, I do highly doubt that it's going to be just 2 weeks. I think it's going to be long. But actually, I have to be really honest. I think that in the last couple of performances, I think Josh has actually been quite quiet. And don't get me wrong, he's worked like a dog. And of course, he did get his goal at home against Hull. But I felt like really the levels that we had seen pre-World Cup, they haven't been there post-World Cup. So I actually, again, see this as an opportunity for someone else to step up to the plate and make an impact. So, yeah, I'm feeling pretty confident. But how is everyone else feeling? Of course, we're recording this live this time out. Get your score predictions in, and we'll get as many up on screen as possible. Are you feeling negative? Are you feeling a bit worried about this? Or are you feeling really positive? Are we going to blow Birmingham apart? Let us know in the comments.
A name I just saw in the comments, Chris, and we haven't discussed, and probably because he's yet to make too much of an impact, and it's almost like you've read my mind. Christos Tzolis. Where does he fit into this side? Because he doesn't get in above Hernandez or Dowell. He's not going to play through the middle, and he's been incredibly ineffective off the bench. Like, what is the plan with Christos, do you think?
Not a clue. Mate, I'm sorry.
Do you think he's up to it?
I really want him to be. And I remember when he came in and I had the Tzolis lottery and all that stuff, you know, when he scored, would give some money to charities. I was, you know, full of hope for Christos Tzolis. And do you know, I definitely think there's a player in there. I do think that Daniel Farke's mismanagement of Christos Tzolis against Bournemouth was a big reason why it knocked the stuffing out of him in terms of his confidence. However, I do also agree with the fact that he hasn't been good enough in large parts, hence the reason why he went out on loan. Do I know the plan with him, Jack? I haven't got bloody Scooby-Doo. Are we putting him in the shop window, perhaps? Maybe. I don't know. Or maybe it's a case of, David, you've got Christos for next season, so we need to get him up to speed now. What can you do with him? And again, you know, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes, Jack. Perhaps David Wagner's gone to Stuart. Actually, do you know what? Yeah, I do want Christos back. I can see a player in there. He just needs a bit of time to bed in. And again, you know, Josh Sargent's out. Perhaps Christos Tzolis will step up to the plate now, you know. Who knows? He's got a point to prove, Jack. And you know me. I love passion and I love players with a point to prove. And I think that Christos Tzolis is certainly that.
This is a nice question from Liam, just going slightly away from the agenda. Liam says, been a Canaries since my first game in the Barclay, April 1988 against Liverpool in the Candy Strip. What was your first games? Right, get your first games that you attended in the comments section. What was yours, Chris?
Do you know, as soon as you brought that up, I was like, oh shit, I can't remember the year. But it was the year that Norwich played Chelsea in the FA Cup. And Gianfranco Zola did that under the leg.
Yeah.
And it was that
late 90s, right? Or was it early noughties?
No, I think it was, I don't know.
How old are you? About 47 now.
No, I don't remember, but it was Gianfranco Zola was still playing for Chelsea, and it was worthy days. Was my first game. So
I love because we've got such a varied audience, and we've got people whose first games were in the 50s, and then we've got some people who like fell in love with Norwich because of Timu Pukki, and it's like I love that kind of contrast in years. It's amazing. Like I guess you probably had like the first player I was like fully invested in was probably like Grant Holt, like proper icon, and I think it's nice that the modern younger fans now have had like a Timu Pukki or an Emi Buendia or someone like that to really grasp onto.
Your Grant Holt was perhaps my Robert Earnshaw.
Yeah, Ewan,
who did the flips. Yeah, Ewan was great. Robert Earnshaw had this sort of star quality. I remember he turned up to my my football team he used to play for was Pouring Man Wanderers. Turned up to my under-14s end of the season award in his Hummer.
Oh, really?
Kids were all like spin. You know, Hummer on a Hummer.
Yeah.
Wheel spin. People like spinning his wheels and stuff.
That's amazing.
Oh, the likes of Leon McKenzie, Huckabee. I think Huckabee was the first player where I thought, yeah. proper star. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, that was the era for me.
This is a good one. Charlie Fletcher. My first game was a game at home when Leroy Lita scored. Still love the guy. He was a good player, you know.
Yeah, I tell you what, he was an absolute animal. I remember Leroy Lita. His wages were part funded by a local business owner because Norwich City couldn't afford his wages. What an absolute baller! You know what Leroy Lita is? He stinks of the streets will never forget. 100%.
Yeah.
100%. He is like such a streets footballer, like quality player.
Cheesy's was Liverpool. Lots of people's first game was against Liverpool. Mine was against Liverpool, actually, against Carrow in the early 70s. Cheesy, when do you get your free bus pass? It's got to be soon. One more of these. I love reading through all of these. Nobby says, home to Preston on a Friday night in 2002. Preston keeper scored a hilarious own goal and a 3-0 win. That'll bring you back. Right. How many points this week, Chris?
Love this one as well. That's a classic, isn't it?
Gossip, what a way, yeah.
Love that. And sorry, I wasn't listening to you.
How many points this week?
6.
Yeah, confident?
Not only do I think it, not only do I hope it, but I believe it.
Well, I hope you believe the things you say on the TNC podcast.
Well, apart from when I have to compliment you on a right. I do. I do think it's 6 points, Jack. I think you know the player for me this week that I think is going to really shine is Sarah. I think we're going to see a Sarah scorcher from outside the box. I can just feel it against Birmingham. Maybe one in off the crossbar. I can really smell a screamer coming up this week. So yeah, hold on to your seats, Norwich City.
Good. I think 6 points as well. I'm confident this week. Yeah, there we go. That's it for this week, Chris, I think. That was actually relatively positive.
Well, hold the press on that. This sums up the Norwich City fan base at the moment, okay? There's I feel like either really positive or you're like SJ. Politely, lads, if you're saying 6 points, the best we can expect is 2 draws. Oh, I love that. It's interesting, isn't it, Jack? But look, 2 massive games, under the lights at Carrow tomorrow night, off the back of a win last time out at Carrow. I think that's something to hold on to. That light show will be there. Perhaps they'll change the music to Zombie Nation. They certainly should, if you ask me. And let's get Carrow rocking, and let's suck the ball into the back of the net, as I'm sure we will.
Absolutely. One final player that we haven't mentioned before we go, and I've completely forgotten. So thanks to Charlie for reminding us. Marquinhos.
Yes.
Wagner said he's fit, and barring something going horrendously wrong, he'll be in the squad. Now, Marquinhos, I don't know. I watched him in a Europa League game, and he was all right. I don't know much about Marquinhos. He's what was he, 19? He's Brazilian, but that alone excites me. And I wouldn't mind a little bit of Marquinhos magic at the end of a game.
Yeah, I could see that. What's this? By the way, Jack, here's a more important discussion. What's Marquinhos' celebration?
I think he will take his shirt off and reveal a yellow and green vest, half Norwich City, half Brazilian flag.
Wow.
And do a little samba dance in the corner.
Yeah. Do you know, I'm smelling a strong whiff of Marquinhos gets the winner against Birmingham. Okay. And what he'll do is he'll run over to the corner flag at the Snake Pit. The Snake Pit would have never seen us before. The Snake Pit, by the way, had been so quiet of late. They need to step up. Seriously, the Snake Pit need to step up. Barclay have been propping you up recently. Anyway, I think Marquinhos is going to go to the Snake Pit. And I reckon he's a corner flag dancer. I reckon he's going to prop one arm on the corner flag and he's going to give it the sexy, almost like, do you remember like the Norwich fans in the 90s will know this, Flecky doing the sexy circles against the goalpost. Marquinhos is going to do some sort of little samba groove on the corner flag at the Snake Pit. And I tell you what, God, that's going to get me going.
And on that, we'll end the TNC podcast. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, Nor Laken's Prep King discount in the description. If you do want any of that, then we'd much appreciate you supporting them because they support us.
Yes. And also remember, I'm hopefully with a fair win, filming with another special guest this week. A bit of a throwback guest. So hopefully you guys will enjoy that one. So the point is, stay tuned. And by the way, thanks for subscribing. over 25,000 now, or like not kicking a pants off a full capacity Carrow Road. So thank you. We're so grateful, aren't we, Jack?
We are indeed. Thanks very much for watching. We'll catch you again very soon. Stay safe. We'll see you at Carrow Road. Hopefully 3 points against Birmingham. Bye-bye.
Come on.